All right, it says we're live.
All right. Good to see you, Steve. Excited to be here today.
Thanks, man. I'm glad to have you on here, Bobby. I'm not gonna lie. Thread is a really confusing name for a company. I feel like I'm about to get some new shirts,
Yeah,
which I did get some new shirts.
I love the Mario Kart shirt. That's
I got
awesome.
my Mario Kart shirt.
Nice. I'll also get you a thread shirt.
All right.
See how it goes today. But no, I hear you. It's I was using a tool to try to like get pings about when anyone says our name like on Reddit and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that for thread, right? Like
No.
anytime that we're. But I will say, we used to be Chat Genie, and I think Thread does a much better job of encapsulating our vision for the world and
Sure.
how we want to do things. But totally hear you there.
All right. So you used to be Chat Genie. Now you're Thread. Has your brand evolved since then?
It has. Yeah, a lot of things have evolved. We launched, like I think most good vendors, out of an MSP.
Mm-hmm.
Our founders, Mark and Matt, and some other people on our team worked at a super large MSP called RFA in New York, financial services focused. And basically, they started using Slack. All this communication started being in Slack and not in the PSA anymore, and that was a problem. So they built Chat Genie, which basically helped get conversations in Slack onto tickets in the PSA. And they did that for a couple years, kind of on the side, working with a bunch of partner MSPs. And so for a long time, Chat Genie was focused around getting internal conversation onto tickets. We do way more than that now. And so yeah, I think that's where like a lot of the transition to Thread comes in.
Cool.
So long-winded
So
answer, but that's kind of how we got there.
no, that's cool, man. So let's talk about what exactly Thread does for companies because I think it's worth understanding better because
Yeah,
if you go to the website which is getthread.com,
that's right.
I'll be honest, it doesn't really explain it to me very well.
Yeah.
So, and this is coming from one marketing manager to a growth. What's your title? Growth
Head of growth. Yeah, yeah.
head of growth. So, I think the disconnect is because you already you've got the curse of knowledge, right?
hmm
So you know what threads are.
Yep.
My assumption is a thread is a chat.
Yeah. It's a little bit intentional. I don't, to your point, I don't think that we've found that place of like talking about the vision and not just what we do. Because if I come in and I say, hey, we help MSPs provide chat, what are you thinking? You're thinking, oh, this is a plugin. Like, oh, I can just put this on my
Yeah,
website. Like, and so
exactly.
we try to come in from the other perspective to show that it is much more robust than just a chat plugin, because that's kind of what the industry's been exposed to up until today. But the flip side of that is that sometimes it's hard to figure out what we actually do. So yeah, excited to do that today. Just to continue to stay high level and keep it a little confusing for a second, we talk about this idea of service collaboration a lot. So you'll see that on our site. We
Hmm.
think about that as the category that we're helping create for MSPs. Really, we think tickets are terrible. You'll also see on our website, death to the ticket. At IT Nation, we dressed up as pirates and held a funeral for the ticket. We like to
I,
say that go ahead.
I do love that you got that picture with the parrot on your shoulder. Is that a real parrot? Because it looks real.
Dude, it is, and I'm pretty terrified of parrots, but I was dressed up as a pirate and there was a live parrot and I had to do it. I couldn't not do it. But
It's
those
awesome.
talons, like I felt like I was going to lose my shoulder any second.
Huh.
Yeah, they were real. So, so what? It looks like you got a thought there.
No, I wouldn't have thought of parrots having talons, but I mean you're not wrong.
I don't know a
I
lot
just
about parrots. I'll just tell you when it was sitting on my shoulder, I was terrified.
okay.
I love my dog. I love animals generally, but like horses, they could kick me and I could die. Don't love horses. Feel the same way about parrots now with their talons.
Huh. Okay.
All right,
Oh,
so service
continue. Yeah.
collaboration, right?
Hmm.
So tickets are awful, like parrots. They're very scary. We like to say that tickets are no way to treat somebody. They're not a communication tool. When I have a problem and I'm told to go open a ticket and I get a number, that just feels bad. Like it's really hard to provide awesome customer service when it's all based around the ticket. Tickets are important for logging information, for billing, for time entries. If it's not in Connectwise or the PSA, it didn't happen, right? Like we believe that as much as anybody. We just think that they shouldn't be used to communicate, and people generally hate tickets. Do you hate tickets, Steve? How do you feel about that?
I kind of like tickets because they help me. I got this every freaking time I do one of these things. The neighbor decides I'm gonna go out and mow the lawn or trim the weeds, or so he's out there with this freaking weed whacker right now.
No
Oh,
worries, man. I
all
hear you.
right. So I love tickets.
Okay.
The reason I love them is because they're a great way to like organize
Hmm.
all of the stuff related to that
Yep.
service request.
Yep.
Now, I will say I don't love managing tickets.
Yeah.
Our RMSP uses Autotask.
Hmm.
I'll go in, I'll create a note so I can update my client, and I forgot to change the status. So now I
Yeah.
have to go in and edit the ticket and change the status, and like it's a whole
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So
Tickets are
it drives me
important for
nuts.
logging information. Like you're
Yeah.
totally right. But when you're working with somebody and you're trying to collaborate, they're super high friction, right?
Hmm.
Like you have to go back and put things on the ticket. The customer has to do things with the ticket. That just creates extra steps. And so when we talk about depth of the ticket, it's making the part that you love more true. We want every single thing that happens to land on the ticket. I mentioned that ChatGenie was born because information wasn't landing on tickets from Slack. So we do that. We get more stuff on the ticket, but from a communication perspective, we want you to be able to talk naturally with people, to just work the way that you would want to work, that you would text a friend while you're still following SLAs and everything's landing in the PSA. And so what that means for us from a service collaboration perspective starts with meeting your customers where they live, primarily inside Teams and Slack. So when you say things are confusing on our site, totally agree. Teams and Slack chat. Like that is the simple way to say the most valuable part of what we provide. The end customer can chat with you from Teams, but it's not a direct line. Like they're not saying, "Hey Steve, what time of day is it?" When they chat, it opens a ticket, it follows your process that exists in the PSA. You can chat back and forth, and I'll show you a demo. But, big picture, it's allowing really seamless communication with the PSA being on the back end.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. There are quite a few things that you guys integrate with. So obviously you said it's like chatting with your clients in Slack and Teams,
Hmm.
and that I mean, I can already chat with my client in Slack and Teams. I just invite them.
Sure. Yeah, that is a terrible thing to do if you want to follow process. If you have one customer, great. Like you probably don't need thread. If you have four customers, like you can have federated tenants and chat with them. If you have 20 customers, 10 customers, 100 customers, it's out of control. And I talked to an MSP the other day that had 500 federated Slack channels with their customers. Large MSP, but like they are dying from a service perspective because they can't keep up with the chats that are happening. They're missing SLAs. They don't see what's going on. People can ask anyone in their company about anything that they want, and none of that's being logged to the PSA. And so that's where they're choosing customer experience over process, which props to them. Like that's probably what they should choose, but you still have to have process. Like they literally can't figure out how to function right now because of all these federated tenants.
Okay. So answer this for me. I know on your integrations page you have ConnectWise. I always screw them up because PSA has automation in it. So obviously, ConnectWise Automate is the
Yeah, yeah.
RMM,
Yeah, there's
and
manage and
and RMM
automate.
has management in it. So obviously, ConnectWise
Yeah,
Manage
that's a
is
good point.
the PSA. So you integrate with both though. You integrate with manage, automate, and control.
That's
Why the
yeah.
heck do I need you to integrate with my remote support or my RMM tool.
Yeah, it makes life way easier.
I
So
don't believe you.
I love it. So, it starts with the PSA. That's the most important piece by far because we're
Hmm.
not a ticketing tool. We have to have a PSA that we integrate with to be able to use Thread because we're all about getting more data into the PSA. So if I were to like give those a percentage ranking, I would say it's 80% of the value you're going to get out of that PSA integration. Now, when you're having this natural conversation with the end user, we like to think of ourselves as a mix between Discord and a PSA. So you can do things you'd expect a modern tool to be able to do, like slash command, at mention people, do all types of fun real-time solutions, which actually brings up a point. When you're doing this chat, it's great for the customer. They can do it from Teams and Slack. But on the backside, you can't manage it from a PSA because PSAs aren't real-time solutions. So you have to have a real-time tool to be able to manage chat. And we call that Inbox. So we have our own backend tool called Inbox. I'll show you a quick clip of it here. Let me share my screen. I probably should have tested this before the call, but I think
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
think
figure it out.
I think you're going to be all right.
Here we go. Okay, so this piece on the right here.
I
Oh,
don't
are
have a
you
screen
seeing it?
shared. No,
Actually,
sir.
I have to give some system. I have to give some permissions. Hey, Steve, I'm going to be back in like 60 seconds. I think I need to leave and give it a permission.
Are you on a Mac?
I am.
So usually you don't actually have to do whatever you need to do.
No, no, tell me. I
I was
when I
gonna say
click this.
you. Usually it'll say you need screen recording permissions and something else, and
Hmm.
it'll be like you need to restart your app,
Yeah.
and I just say no, and then it works. But
Okay.
whatever you need to do, man.
No, let me try again then. Let's do this real quick. Yeah, it's still saying that it needs system
Okay,
preferences. All right, give me a second.
go ahead and do that, and then I'll see you in just a moment. Meanwhile, I'm gonna tell you guys a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. No, I'm just kidding. So let's see. I have been the marketing manager for an MSP called Avram for a few months now, and I gotta say I'm loving it. And what I've been focusing on for the last few months is I've been learning a boatload of CSS, HTML, CSS type stuff. And I know, I can just use a WordPress page builder. I will be using a WordPress page builder, but the reason I want to learn all this CSS stuff is because I want to understand what is it that the page builder's doing, and I want to be able to manipulate things. Hey, he's back.
I'm back.
We'll talk about this later. Let's go back to Thread, everybody.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. Excited to be back. It was a little scary, jumping around live, but here we are. Let me try this screen share button here real
What's
quick.
the worst that could happen?
Exactly. All right. Are you seeing my screen?
I sure am.
Perfect. Cool. So back to, talking about how PSAs aren't real time. So you have to have a different place to be able to manage chat. Now, when we built a real-time tool, we said we might as well make it as awesome as we can. And so
Uh-huh.
enter Inbox. It's basically again like Discord and your PSA having a baby together. So first off, you'll see the navigation here on the left. This is where I can find things. So my inbox as a technician is where I can see all of my tickets, whether they were initiated through chat or not. It's a great place for me to see what's going on. Channels are like views and manage or queues and Autotask, but we have our own workflow engine, which is really powerful. It allows you to route tickets based off pretty much any filter from the PSA that you want. So I could do something really simple here and say if the status is new, then I want it to go to a triage channel, for example. And then you would see those tickets flowing in to that channel here on the left. So you can route tickets based off time of day, words that are said, queues, really whatever you want. Typically, you'll do it off your service boards or your queues.
Uh-huh.
Now, if I jump in, I can see all my tickets here. I can see the priority, who responded last, who it's assigned to. So great place for me to help manage stuff. But just getting into like why you would want. I just realized how long-winded of an answer this is. You asked why the RMM and the control integrations are powerful. It's because when I'm working in inbox and I'm helping somebody, so like this is the chat here, I've gone back and forth. I can do a slash command or click action. I can pull in an RMM config straight into the place where I'm working, and then I can click control and remote straight into someone's machine from there.
Okay.
So that's where when I'm talking about like it makes life a lot easier, you have to have the PSA integration. But once
Sure.
you have that and you're talking with someone, you're using slash commands. So say I want to change the status real quick. If this ticket wasn't closed, I would just do slash status. It'll move it, priority, who it's assigned to, pulling in configs, all kinds of fun stuff, really focused around helping that technician experience be better. Because we find that a leading indicator of customer experience is technician experience. So if you're having a good time and you're happy, your customer's probably going to do the same.
Now, okay, so this is a really cool, beautiful interface. Can all this be done directly from Slack, slash commands, everything?
It can be. From Slack or Teams, it's just a few more clicks because, we didn't build the tool ourselves in Slack and
Sure.
Teams. But say we're in Teams, for example, same idea with Slack. We're pushing tickets in as adaptive cards. So the big idea here is any time where you and your team are talking in Teams or Slack about a ticket, now instead of having that conversation in a DM or a channel and it not getting back there, you just find the ticket, which is really simple. You have all the context of what's going on in the ticket. You continue to talk on this ticket. And then all of that conversation is automatically logged, either as an internal note by default, or you can even respond to the customer from here.
Okay. So
So,
I like it.
sorry, I was just going to say, when we talk about that collaboration idea, this is really what that's getting at, is like the technician isn't even thinking about the ticket as much. They're able to work more naturally, where they work, how they work, and everything's on the ticket. To your point, it's a great process and everything's coming together.
Very nice. All right. So you've got multiple, I'm going to call it things. So like
Sure.
for example, you've got inbox, but then you've got messenger, workflow, and copilot.
Yes. Yeah. So, Thread as a whole, it's not a chat plugin, which is why our website's a little confusing. We want people to understand that there's a lot of depth and breadth to this. So Messenger is the customer facing piece. I'll share my screen again here, and I can even run through like what it would look like for someone to chat. But to try to answer a question succinctly, Messenger is the customer facing piece, Inbox is the technician facing piece, flows are what are pushing tickets into Inbox and really into your Teams or Slack channel.
And copilot?
And Copilot is our AI. We actually were used in Microsoft's keynote at the Build It conference yesterday. They've done a case study on how we are working with OpenAI and Microsoft. So we're not just playing around with ChatGPT on their website. We work super closely with those companies. Today, the main things we do there is one, we'll write all your time entries for you. We have a partner of ours.
That's the thing I wanted to hear more about.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a
Gotta see
partner
it.
that tells us it saves them 300 hours a month just not writing time entries.
Wow.
They're big, right? But if you think about
Sure.
like Steve, how long do you think it takes to write a time entry typically?
At least 45 seconds.
Yeah, So let's say a minute. I'd say typically it's
Sure.
somewhere between 30 seconds and 5 minutes, depending on the time entry.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say it's a minute and a technician's touching 15 tickets a day, that's 15 minutes per tech per day. Some of our partners tell us it saves an hour per tech per day. So that stuff adds up pretty quickly.
So, show me it writing some time entries.
Yeah. Let's do it. Present, share screen. All right, so we're back over to inbox here. This ticket, there's been some stuff that happened. So it came in. We also automatically prioritize the ticket using our AI, which is really cool. We can dig into that. There was some conversation. I told the user they should get a new cat. They said they need a mouse. I worked collaboratively with one of our teammates, so I was able to mention someone, and we worked on this. Those were all logged as internal notes. Didn't quite get to the end of it. I was just messing around. But basically, you solve a problem. You're ready to do a time entry. You come over here. You open TimePad, which is a place where I can work on my time entries while I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
But if I click Copilot, this is going to choose between about 15 different prompts that we have on the back end based off what makes the most sense. It's going to read everything that happened here and write the time entry for me.
Suggested getting a cat. Not helpful. That's
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes it'll write like was probably joking around. It's kind of funny. Like you'll see the smarter it gets here, different things are happening. But yeah, this is using ChatGPT, but then it's also using our learning model. We've processed about 30 million IT tickets. So we have a super smart, basically IT MSP focused AI here. It's not reprocessing any of your information. That's huge. We use Azure AI. It's all secure. We're not reprocessing, but you do get to benefit from a lot of tickets that we've processed to date.
that is really cool, man. So, uh, when it comes to, man, I don't know where to begin. I'll be honest, because it's so like good, simple.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing with AI, right? Like I have the ChatGPT app on my phone. I use ChatGPT.
There's an app for the phone.
Yeah, it came out last week. It's much slower, but it's helpful. Um,
Hmm.
but it's not specific. Like there's no specific use case for ChatGPT just in and of itself. And I think where you're going to see the most valuable AI is when it's in context where it makes sense, right? Like Hoodoo is using ChatGPT to write documentation. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Like that's exactly how it should be used. The same thing here. We have conversations, so we can read that and write your time entries. So it's in a tool that already has a use in and of itself. It's not just an AI tool, right? Which I think is a big part of it.
I didn't know that Hoodoo uses Chat GPT to write documentation.
Yeah, I think it's in beta, but I haven't used it myself, but I've heard about it, and it's pretty powerful.
Hmm. That's really cool. What else is using AI Chat GPT? What other platforms can you show for us?
Um, Man, off the top of my head, like other MSP tools, that's a good question. Roost and Pia are doing really cool stuff with AI. I don't think they're using ChatGPT though.
Sure.
You know, as far as who else is using it, I think a lot of people are implementing it in small ways. Like I know Halo has some ChatGPT stuff where I think they're like suggesting responses to you. I think another, interesting conversation there is we see a lot of people implementing like a really quick beta version where they're basically just bringing in ChatGPT on its own into the tool and saying like, "Hey, it's in beta, run wild with it. It might be helpful." And that's like slightly more helpful than having ChatGPT on the website, right? Like you could post a whole ticket conversation and say like, "Tell me how to respond to somebody," and it'll take a good guess. People that are actually implementing it from my perspective in like the right way or have taken the time to really dig in with the technology. It's early. I don't think we've seen a lot of that yet, but I think that's where it's going to win. Not just plugins that are like helpful, but I think people that have built their own learning model that have adapted it with their own prompts to make things happen the right way. It's kind of where I think it's going to end up.
So I just speaking of using prompts to adapt it, um, I just asked ChatGPT to generate, you know, 20 questions so that way we can educate ChatGPT on who we are and how we speak, and then answered the question, had the client answer the questions, and then fed that in the ChatGPT and
That's
said,
awesome.
use this information to write in the same style that we write and to generate marketing content for our company,
That's
and
awesome.
the content that it writes is
Yeah.
chef's kiss, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's so smart. And I think like, that work that you just did, potentially a tool could have you click a button like we clicked Copilot and do all that for you, right?
Right.
Like our goal in the long run is to be able to process your documentation, your tickets, put that through our learning model and suggest responses, potentially even interact with your customers in a chat-based format off of those things. And so, we could release like an AI chatbot today that's like okay and pretty good, but we want to really get to where we're solving a lot of problems, soup to nuts, because it's like the smartest MSP chatbot you could have.
Hmm. I agree. So, um, man, is there anything else that you see people using Thread for? Maybe some like unique case studies or examples or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and it's funny, like we basically have gone backwards through how I would normally do a demo of Thread, which has been pretty refreshing on my side. But, the biggest thing is meeting your customers where they are. Like
Hmm.
that's what this says on LinkedIn, like we're talking about today. And we think about that, like I like to use this analogy of if I'm thirsty, I'm going to drink whatever's on my desk. And by the way, I have 3 different glasses of old liquid on my desk right now that
Yikes.
I'm more likely to drink than I am to go get water from my fridge, if I'm being honest. And I think service is the same way. For an end user, if they need help, they are going to reach for whatever. Yeah, okay. That's good problem solving. So that may be a good analogy for what it's like to use Thread, having like a Brita filter on your desk.
I don't
But
mess around.
I love it. So, if I'm an end user, I'm going to pick up the phone and hold my nose and waste half an hour of everybody's time, even though I don't like it, because it's what I can think of, it's what I know, and it's what's right in front of me. Historically, we've seen some chat tools implemented through RMMs, and our lead investor is David Bellini, who launched Chat Assist at Connectwise, and he sees why you need to be where the customers are, and so we do that by meeting people inside Teams and Slack. So let me just show you if it's in Teams. Yeah, I think I'm sharing, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So inside Teams, it looks like this. It's a white labeled app that's the MSP's branding right inside the customer's Teams environment. They can pin the app on the side. All the logos and everything are the MSP.
I was going to ask about that. So, so this is what it looks like in Teams, and our MSP. We recommend Teams to all of our clients.
Hmm.
And what about Slack? Because I know Slack doesn't do this.
Yeah, so Slack, we have an app for Slack. It looks a little different just because of how Slack works. I use Slack. Slack users love the Slack app. I'm in dark mode here, but it looks really different, but it's the same functionality where I can see all of my tickets that are open as a user in this app. And if I want to talk on the ticket, I just have a thread here. So then I have all the context. I can reply from here. So as a user, it's just like I'm talking to someone else on my team. I have that conversation. The big thing with Teams or Slack is that you're getting push notifications where that person's working on their proverbial desk, right from the PSA or wherever you're chatting from. So now instead of, think about how often an MSP responds to a ticket, asks somebody if they can remote in, 4 hours later or a day later, the customer says yes, and you've gone home for the day or you're not available anymore. And now it's a dead ticket and you're never going to be able to solve that person's problem. They still have the problem. It's not that we're making that never happen anymore, but
Hmm.
when instead of sending that email, you're sending a chat and they're getting a push notification and it's right where they're talking to all their coworkers, they're way more likely to respond quickly. So we see about a 30% decrease in time to resolution for chat-based tickets across the board, largely because of that quicker back and forth.
It's 30% decrease in time to resolution across the board.
Yeah, for chat-based tickets. Think about like Steve, if you and I were to send 10 emails back and forth today,
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you.
it's going to take
I
forever.
just I'll be honest, I thought it would be higher. I thought it would be more time decreased.
Yeah, we're seeing there's different factors that go into that, and it may be higher in the long run. But to be fair, Like some problems are still complex. Like you're still
Hmm.
going to need to call the customer or remote in or schedule time or whatever. We're not saying like change the whole way your service desk works and only handle tickets through chat and do everything instantly. We're more saying have the same SLAs, have a different method of communication that your team and your customer are going to like more. And that's going to result in quicker time to resolution. We, you could do it way quicker. We have partners that do live help desk through chat, and their time to resolution is much faster.
Sure.
We're just not asking MSPs to make that big of a change.
So our average hold time for customers that call in is less than 45 seconds.
Yeah, incredible. That's
So
awesome.
I would say that for an MSP like ours, the time decreased may not be as dramatic. I mean, it may. I mean, I
I think
know,
the biggest thing that you guys would see is being able to do more with your same team. So
yeah,
now
because
that
we're
person,
doing more chats than phone calls.
exactly, and you can multitask. If you answer the phone, you're you're solving that relatively quickly, probably. You're helping that customer feel really good, but that person can't do anything else while they're on the phone with that person.
So I have a question from someone. Does it have a feature to schedule a time to connect inside the chat? Like, does it send the client a calendar invite? I know that that's something we could easily accomplish with Calendly or TimeZest.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot of process for MSPs. And so there's different ways to approach it. First off, you can control what's in this iframe here. So out of the gate, you can have a link to a time zest or Calendly link right here. So maybe they're scheduling time instead of ever chatting with you. And then it just goes straight to that. Now, if you're within a conversation, you use our functionality, which we call snippets, which are saved
mhm.
responses. They're pulling variables from the PSA. So I have a time zest snippet here, for example, where I already have my time zest link embedded. I respond, it sends that chat with the link right there. So yeah, our thing is right place, right time. And so we want you guys to use whatever makes the most sense. We think chat makes sense a lot of the time, and it's a method that's not really able to be used by MSPs today in a way that makes sense. One thing to think about if you've tried chat solutions today, most of them you have to log into for it to be available. That doesn't really work because you're just not
Uh-huh.
going to go do that. And so we try to incorporate into your current process as much as possible so that you don't have to change a ton.
Now, snippets. I use a platform called Text Expander. Not sure if you're familiar. It's
I'm
available
not.
on both Mac and PC. So, since you're a Mac user, you are familiar probably with keyboard replacement.
Yeah.
So you can type in OMW, and the Mac will automatically change that to "On my way!" exclamation point.
Yep.
Right? NP, no problem.
Yep.
So Text Expander is like that, but on steroids.
Love it.
So let me. Is there something in here that's going to get me in trouble? No, no, there's not. So I'm going to share my screen, and you don't have to turn yours off.
Okay.
So I'm going to share window, text expander, share, and add to stream. There we go. So with text expander, what's really cool about this is, I've got email snippets, so I've got all these different email addresses I use, so I can type at EMA, and it's automatically going to put my Avram email address for me.
Cool.
So
That's awesome.
literally, I just come here and I type at EMA, and well, not in here because it doesn't do it in itself. I was
Yeah.
I was hoping it would just show you how great it is. And then on web design, I've got this here. This is something that I use a lot, but I don't always want to just type it.
Sure.
So I have at alternate,
Cool.
and it automatically types all of that in. And then here's one where you'll see it's got this bubble,
Hmm.
and it says position cursor here. So they've got all these. You can add special characters. you can add fill-ins. So I could say, come here and add a fill-in, and now I've got a single line fill-in, and we'll call it test field, and we can add a width. And now when I type %%%, it's going to pop up a bubble and it's going to say test field, and I have to type something in, and it's automatically going to like fill that in for me. So
Interesting.
text expander is really cool because it's got snippets on crack
Yeah,
basically,
I love it.
or on steroids is probably the better way to put it. And
Yeah,
because of the ability to put the cursor in specific places, or
yeah,
have fill-ins and that
yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah, so
So
so Steve, like that tool is incredible, but frankly to me, it seems like a feature that's going to exist in a lot of tools 6 months from now, a year from now, right? Like I think when we talk about where ChatGPT is being used really well, that's an example of someone making ChatGPT really cool in its own product, but it's not doing a lot outside of what ChatGPT does in and of itself, right? So I'm not saying that's a bad tool. I'm just saying if I were them, I would be really scared about other people just implementing it natively.
now to clarify, text expander isn't ChatGPT.
Okay, I saw a ChatGPT tab in there, so I figured that's
I
part of the
I
backend.
have a ChatGPT tab that I created with, so similar to how you've got all these snippets.
Hmm.
I've got snippets of common things that I say to
Got it.
ChatGPT.
Got it.
So I just have different folders because I'm super anal when it comes to organization. That's
Cool.
all.
Yeah, no, it looks awesome. Like ideally, all of the stuff that you just did in there would exist in our chat functionality. And yeah, we will definitely do more of those types of things. Will we get all the way to what that tool does? Not sure. But because we're using ChatGPT, like we're on a path to suggest responses for your team, and then auto respond if you want us to. So I think that's where like and snippets are great, but what if it could say, "Hey, we saw this same device had this issue the last 10 times you touched it. Also, here's the documentation and here's the user information, and so this is probably what's going on, and this is how you should respond."
That would be super impressive. I just so to clarify with the snippets, the only thing I'm suggesting is it would be nice to have some extra power behind it,
Yeah.
so that way we could have some like fill-ins or blank variable sections where, because I don't want it to say hi Bob to Jim.
Yep.
I want to make sure that my snippet has a little bit of intelligence to
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, so
That's all.
we do that actually. So we have variables being pulled from the PSA.
Okay.
For example, name, company name, contact ID, ticket ID, priority, all that stuff can be put into snippets. But there's a lot more coming for sure.
Good. Very good. Well, cool. So what else do people ask you guys when talking about this really cool platform? Price, right?
Sure.
Everyone wants to know
Yeah.
the price.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you're talking about putting these Teams app and Slack's apps into people's environment and having inbox and having the workflows and the AI, you could break it out into four different products. We license it more or less all together. So that's where service collaboration comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It really works best when you have all of it. So it's $22 per customer per month or per client of the MSPs, regardless of end users, technicians, chats, just per customer. Now that breaks out a little bit. It's $17 for our core product and $5 for the AI. I don't think we have anybody using our product without the automated time entries. So, essentially it's 22 bucks a month. And we do have tiered pricing.
I'm just taking notes. You said you have tiered pricing. How's that work?
Yeah, so our minimum's 20 customers. So basically 440 bucks a month. We do have some good partnerships and stuff that get that down to 400 a month for anyone who's on this webinar today. Absolutely. In addition to that, as you grow, then the price goes down. So about every 50 customers or so, there's price breaks. and it's month to month. So, we want to eat our own dog food. We don't lock anyone into contracts.
Can we sign a long-term contract to get a price break?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Generally, we want to keep it. We're a customer success tool at our core. We want people to be successful, and we don't want people to be locked into contracts. So
Okay.
it's not something we push super hard, but we can talk about it.
Okay. What else do people ask you?
Yeah, more and more the AI conversation of like how secure is the data and such. And the biggest answer around that is we use Azure OpenAI, which especially at the conference yesterday that we were in the keynote of, Microsoft doubled down on like anything that's in Azure OpenAI is not being reprocessed and it's secure. It's in our own instance. So that's a big deal around that side of the house. A more basic conversation is around like if you're in Teams and your customers are in Slack, not a big deal. It goes through the PSA, separate. You can't tell what tool the other person's using on the other side. So that's a big thing. Like if you have customers using Teams and Slack, you can meet them both where they are the same way.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. How easy is it for an MSP that's currently using Slack and eventually wants to switch over to Teams? So today they'll use Slack, and maybe 6 months from now they'll use Teams.
Yeah, super easy. All the same workflows would work on our side. You're not changing anything on the customer side. You just change the integration and create the same channels, and then you're good to go.
Perfect. So if a client has 300 devices, 300 end users, it's still $22 a month.
Yep. Yeah, 300 is actually our cutoff where we have a conversation about it. Like I talked to someone with 6,000 users the other day, and it's more of like, hey, let's just figure this out. We want to be fair, but it does cost more for us when there's 6,000 users.
Good to know. I'm glad that I asked, because I think somebody might have said, "Oh, good, we've got a client with 2,000 end users."
Yeah, typically it averages out. Like if you are signing up for a minimum with 20 customers, a lot of times it'll still average out to below 300, and we'll let it ride. But if all of your customers have 1,000 users, then it'd be a bit more.
Gotcha. So let's say we've got 9 customers with 25 users and 1 customer with 500 users. It'll average out.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Won't even be a conversation.
Yep.
Cool. What about security of thread itself? Not even worrying about the AI, because I know everybody's all up in arms with all these different security breaches and attacks and everything else. Why do I want to have yet another thing integrate into my PSA, RMM, Screen Connect, and everything else, right?
Yeah. First off, I'd say generally you don't want to, right? Like you want to have
cool.
as
Great
little things
conversation,
there,
Bobby.
for
Thanks.
sure. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like there has to be a lot of value to do that. Like if it's a 20% return on, or 120% return or whatever on what you're doing, like, probably better to just let it ride and not take a risk, because everything is a risk, right? Now we do take security very seriously. Especially coming from the MSP that we were at, large MSP, financial services focused. And so all that to say, our data is stored in AWS. It's all encrypted at rest. It's encrypted in transit. We've been pen tested by Connecteise and Slack, and we're happy to share that with our partners and our InfoSec questionnaire and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we certainly take it very seriously.
Good. Any compliance concerns? I know you're not installing an agent, so technically you don't have to worry about patient data unless somebody's dumb enough to chat it to us,
Yeah, we do actually have an agent that you can put on people's machines if they don't have Teams or Slack, and they can chat that way, which is pretty great. Like if you have 2 customers that just don't use Teams, just put the agent on their machine. You can also put it on your website, I should mention. So there are a lot of different options. Teams and Slack are just the best 2. But yeah, generally we're not getting into HIPAA and compliance type issues there.
Now, if we were to put it on our website, let's say Joe Blow from Not a Customer LLC reaches
Hmm.
out to me.
Yep.
How's that work?
Yeah, so there's two different flows. If you want to pop my screen back on here, I'll show you. So this is our site. We have our chat down here in the bottom right. So it's a little small, but you can see there's two options.
Mm-hmm.
There's I'm already a customer and I'm new and I have a question. If you say
Yeah.
I'm already a customer, it's going to ask you your email address. It checks to make sure you're in the PSA, and if you are, then it populates all your ticket. Well, sorry, it sends you a one-time code to authenticate. It's passwordless. Once you authenticate, then it populates all your tickets, and you're good to go. If you're new, it's a bit of a high barrier for chat because we don't want you getting a lot of spam because we're going to
Mm-hmm.
create that user in the PSA for you. So basically, we'll ask them what their company name is, their name, their email address. It sends them a one-time code. They authenticate. Then it creates them in the PSA and puts them on a sales board or sales queue for you. And
Hmm.
then you're able to chat with that person on your website straight from your Teams or Slack.
That is freaking awesome. And
Yeah,
I'm okay with that high barrier because if they're going to get put into my PSA, I want to make sure it's not bull honky.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, we use this on our site, as you can see, and I handle it from our Slack, and it's pretty awesome.
Now, are we able to customize the prompts? Like, hey, we want to make sure you're not bull honky, so we're going to ask for all this information and send you a thing, and that's how we start the chat.
Yeah, this flow isn't super customizable today. The sales chat isn't like the core focus of our business. We
Sure.
definitely have some work that we need to do there, but we can customize that for you.
Okay. Good to know. And you mentioned there's an agent. What about on the technician side of things? What if we don't use Slack or Teams? We just use the website, right?
Yeah, you'd use Inbox, which, yeah, to your point, you can handle it on the web. You can also do it through an app on Windows or Mac or iOS and Android. So you can use it on mobile too.
Very nice. And the app, um, let me think here. So let's say we're in an area where we don't have cell service or Wi Fi. Are we still able to access old chats to scroll through for reference? Or does
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah, you would be able to see those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if there would ever be a reason for that, but
Yeah, I hadn't
might
really thought about it, but it would
might as
work.
well ask, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
so basically, we're just asking if it stores the data on the device, or if it has to have an internet connection to access it.
Yeah. Now, to authenticate and stuff, you would need internet, but yeah, if you're logged in, you should be good.
Cool. Um, great. How do people sign up?
Yeah. So talk to me. My email is bobby@getthread.com. I'll also put a link here to grab some time on my calendar. But if you go to our website, getthread.com, you can easily find my calendar, and it's pretty simple. This month to month, we have a great onboarding process, um, and yeah, we just go from there.
Awesome. Here, I'll even put this across the bottom. Boom. Bobby at
Perfect.
getthread.com.
There you go. This is a cool tool. I just put my personal calendar link in the chat here too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, that may have only been to you. So,
It,
anyways, you
it
can find that on
was.
our site.
No, that's perfect. How do you like HubSpot? Do you guys pay for it?
We do. We're on a startup plan. It's still expensive.
Yeah.
Um, you need to be getting like using it for a lot of things, but personally, I love HubSpot. Like it is so easy to use. There's a lot of automation in it. Um, yeah, I'm a big fan generally.
Cool.
Good
All right,
question.
Bobby. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying I'd love to have a CRM focused conversation at some point as well. So I have a lot of thoughts around Salesforce and HubSpot.
That would be great. What do you have any thoughts or opinions on what is it? Hive, Glass Hive?
Yeah, it looks awesome. I haven't used it personally, but I think, anything that is being specifically built for MSPs, is a great start because otherwise you're kind of bending things to work the way that you guys work. Like, we're a software company, so HubSpot is generally built for us, but I think as an MSP it's a little different. And so GlassHive, I think is doing some cool things for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, Bobby, thank you so much for hopping on here with me today. I really appreciate you showing off Thread. It is a really cool tool. I'm going to talk to our powers that be and see if I can get us using it. Do you guys have like a trial or anything like that?
Yeah, we're month to month. So generally the best way is to like just give it a shot because you kind of do need to implement all of it to really get a feel for it.
Understood.
But if you feel like you really need a trial, we can certainly discuss those things for anyone who's interested.
Okay. Very
So yeah,
cool.
thanks for having me today, Steve. Super fun to be here. Love the commentary and questions, and yeah, thanks for doing what you do for the community.
Absolutely. It's a blast to do this stuff. Thanks so much. And for those of you still with us, uh, like, subscribe, share, do all the things, right? Because we want to make sure that as many MSPs can get this awesome content as possible. Thanks so much, everybody. You all take care.